It hits you, right? This feeling that the world of software development is evolving at, well, warp speed.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere you look, there's a new framework, some library you have to know. And now, this huge wave of AI tools that seem like they're going to rewrite everything.
Yeah.
If you're anything like us, and, anyone trying to stay current in this field, you're probably asking, what really matters in all this noise? How do I get a handle on it without just getting totally overloaded?
That feeling, being overwhelmed,
Yeah.
it's completely understandable. I mean, the speed of change is dizzying.
Right.
And that's exactly why we're doing this, to try and cut through that clutter. So welcome to this deep dive. We take these complex things and pull out the key insights.
Yeah.
Today, we're really honing in, looking at excerpts from Coding Your Future, Developer Transformations with AI.
Now, if you caught our last deep dive, Echoes of Disruption, you'll remember we looked back at history. Big tech shifts always cause some anxiety at first, right?
Yeah.
But they ultimately led to adaptation, new kinds of jobs popped up, and, human capabilities got amplified. It's actually kind of a reassuring pattern when you look at it that way.
It is. And today, we're shifting from that historical view to what's happening, like, right now on the ground.
Okay, so present day.
Exactly. Our mission here is to get past the theory and look at the real deal. How are developers actually using these AI tools, like in their daily work?
Yeah, the practical stuff.
We're focusing on verified accounts, tangible results. We want to show this shift that's happening, this like strategic partnership forming between developers and AI. It's moving beyond just being a helpful add-on
to more of a collaborator.
Yeah, a genuine creative collaborator in some ways.
Okay, so AI isn't just that slightly smarter autocomplete we've seen for a while. It's really embedding itself into how development happens.
Precisely. The developer's toolkit, it's changing fast. AI is taking on this more central, even creative role. We can kind of break down these new tools. First up, you've got what people are calling AI pair programmers and coding assistants. So think GitHub Copilot, often called your AI coding buddy.
Right.
Then there's Amazon Code Whisperer, Tab9, Google's Gemini Code Assist too.
Yeah, most of us have probably bumped into those for, basic code suggestions, but it sounds like they can do a lot more now.
Oh, absolutely. They've really grown. These tools go way beyond just finishing your line of code. They can generate whole blocks of code, sometimes complex ones, and they seem to have a much better grasp of the context, the surrounding code. They're also getting better at, proactively spotting potential bugs and suggesting actual fixes.
Proactively.
Yeah. And look at Google's Gemini Code Assist. It apparently has a 2 million token context window.
2 million, wow. What does that translate to practically?
Well, think of the context window as the AI's working memory. The bigger it is, the more of your project's code and comments and documentation it can sort of hold in its head at once.
Got it.
So a massive window like Gemini's suggests, a future where the AI doesn't just see the immediate lines, but really gets the bigger picture of the whole code base. It's moving beyond simple suggestions.
That is a huge leap in understanding. Okay, what's the next category of tools we're seeing emerge?
We're also seeing these AI-powered IDEs, integrated development environments. These are coding environments where the AI isn't just bolted on. It's woven right into the core experience.
Okay.
So take Cursor, for instance. It has this thing called agent mode, where it can apparently try to tackle whole programming tasks on its own, just based on, high-level instructions you give it.
An agent mode. Interesting.
Yeah. And Replit AI, it integrates right into their cloud IDE. It can help generate whole projects from scratch or just give you assistance right there in the code you're working on.
Okay.
And Firebase Studio looks really interesting too. It's aiming to streamline building full-stack AI apps. It can even automatically set up the back-end stuff based on what you need for the front end, or even from designs you made in Figma.
Whoa. From Figma to back-end setup.
That's the idea. So it's not just about writing lines of code anymore, right? It's AI helping across the whole life cycle of building something.
Yeah, that feels like a fundamental change. What about other, maybe more specialized AI tools?
We're definitely seeing more specialized agents pop up. Google has one called Jules. It's designed as an asynchronous background coding agent.
Asynchronous, meaning?
Meaning it can work on stuff in the background, maybe tackling items from your backlog, or drafting initial versions of new features without constantly interrupting what you're actively working on.
Ah, okay. That could be useful.
Right. Then there's Google Stitch, which is focused specifically on generating UI and front-end code. You can give it natural language descriptions or even upload images.
Images to UI code.
Yeah. And Vercel's V0 does something similar, specifically for React components using Tailwind CSS.
Okay.
And for testing, which, let's be honest, often gets short shrift, you have tools like Comeau emerging that can automatically generate test suites.
Automated testing, that's a big one.
Huge. And even documentation tools like Mitlify are using AI for that. And for code review, you've got AI agents like CodeRabbit starting to appear.
It really does feel like there's an AI helper popping up for nearly every stage now. And you mentioned earlier AI helping with learning, too.
Absolutely. That's a really powerful application. These AI-powered tutors, they can personalize the learning. They figure out where your knowledge gaps are and adapt how they teach you. They can explain tricky code snippets, break down complex ideas, give you examples tailored specifically to what you need to understand. It's like having a personal mentor, but, available 24/7.
That paints a really clear picture. AI is like augmenting all these core tasks. Let's maybe dig into some of those specific areas a bit more. Code generation is the obvious one.
Yeah, indeed. Basic autocomplete's been around, but AI now is generating much more complex stuff functions, boilerplate blocks, you name it.
Right.
The source material we looked at mentions that at big places like Google, AI might be generating something like up to 25% of the code that gets committed.
25%. Wow.
Yeah. But it's crucial to remember, this is generally with human guidance, human review. It's not just AI running wild.
Okay. Still needs that oversight. That's a pretty significant chunk, though. What about debugging? That can be such a time sink.
AI is getting pretty good there, too.
Yeah.
Can analyze code, spot potential bugs based on patterns it's learned from tons of data, suggest fixes.
Suggest actual fixes.
Yeah, specific ones. And even flag potential security vulnerabilities before they become big problems.
Yeah.
Kind of proactively.
That could definitely save some late nights, couldn't it? And refactoring, and dealing with old legacy code. That's another area that often gets pushed back.
Exactly. AI can help restructure older code, make it more efficient, bring it up to current standards.
Yeah.
But this is where we need to be a bit careful.
Okay.
There's this term coined by Bill Harding from GitClear. AI-induced technical debt.
AI-induced tech debt. What's that?
It's the risk that AI, because it's so good at generating new code quickly, might just keep adding stuff on top, rather than doing the harder, more thoughtful work of refactoring and cleaning up the existing code.
Ah, I see. So you get faster features maybe, but the underlying code could get messier.
Precisely. The temptation is just to let the AI generate more, but you really need that deliberate refactoring to avoid problems down the road. You can't just paper over the cracks.
That makes total sense. Okay, we also touched on learning. How exactly is AI helping developers get up to speed?
Well, like we said, it's a powerful teaching tool. They can break down really complex programming ideas into smaller, easier to grasp pieces.
Right.
It can generate examples that are directly relevant to what you're trying to learn, maybe based on code you're already working with. And it can even map out personalized learning paths for you.
Personalized learning paths. Interesting. What about the more creative side, like design and initial prototyping?
AI is making big strides there, too. It can whip up initial UI mockups just based on your description.
Just from tech.
Yeah. Or, like we mentioned with Firebase Studio and Stitch, it can even convert design files, say, from Figma directly into working front-end code.
Okay, that drastically cuts down the time from idea to something you can actually click on.
Exactly. Really speeds up that initial phase.
And we mentioned testing and documentation again briefly.
Yeah, so tools like Comeau automating test suite generation that helps ensure code is more reliable, fewer bugs slip through.
Which is always good.
Always. And for docs, tools like Mitlify can auto-generate documentation from your code, helping keep it current. Others, like FigStack, can even explain the why behind certain code decisions.
Explain the reasoning. That'd be amazing for teamwork and onboarding.
Totally. Imagine jumping into a new project and having an AI explain confusing parts.
So with all these tools and capabilities flying around, it really sounds like developers need a whole new skill set. You mentioned this idea of AI literacy. What does that really mean?
Yeah, AI literacy, it's way more than just knowing how to write a good prompt, though that's part of it. It's about being able to strategically pick the right AI tool for the job you need done. It's about giving the AI enough context so it actually understands your goal.
Right, context is key.
Absolutely. Then you need to critically evaluate the output. Is it correct? Is it secure? Is it efficient? You can't just trust it blindly.
Makes sense.
And finally, understanding the limitations, knowing where AI excels and where it falls short or might even introduce bias. It's really about becoming a skilled collaborator with these AI systems.
Right. Not just a user, but a collaborator, understanding its strengths and weaknesses, guiding it, checking its work. You also put together a useful summary table of some key tools and their benefits. Maybe we could highlight a couple just to make it concrete.
Sure. So GitHub Copilot, right? Its main thing is code generation, acting like that pair programmer. The big benefit: speed, potentially better code quality.
Yeah.
Because it's assisting in real time.
Okay.
Then you have something like Cursor, the AI-first IDE, can try to tackle whole tasks autonomously. That offers a more, hands-off experience for certain kinds of work.
Different approach.
Different approach. Replit Agent is interesting for building full-stack apps just from natural language prompts. That really lowers the barrier to entry.
Yeah, democratizing it.
Exactly. Firebase Studio aims to streamline that whole journey. Idea to deployed app, even linking design and backend. Then specialized tools like Google's Jules for background tasks, Stitch for UI generation, they free you up for trickier problems.
And the learning aspect.
Right, like Watson X Code Assistant, helping developers understand complex code bases faster, and Quoto for automated tests, Vercel's V0 for UI components. It all points to AI assisting across the board in very specific ways.
It really paints a picture of deep integration already happening. Now, talking about tools is one thing, but what about the actual experiences? You mentioned some verified stories of developers using these things. Let's get into those. The first one was Josh W. Comeau and accessibility.
Yeah, Josh's story is really powerful. He's a well-known developer and educator, but he has cubital tunnel syndrome, which makes using a keyboard and mouse painful.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So his first step was amazing. He moved to a completely hands-free setup using voice control, Talon Voice, and an eye tracker. He heavily customized it for React, CSS, all his work.
Incredible adaptation.
Truly. But more recently, he started integrating AI coding tools, like Cursor, with models such as Claude Sonnet, into that hands-free workflow.
So he went from adapting the input method because of a physical need to now using AI for cognitive help with the coding itself.
Exactly that progression. He found that, for certain tasks, AI can generate working code really quickly. But he's also very thoughtful about it. He really stresses how crucial human oversight is. He even coined this term vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Yeah, the danger of just accepting AI code because it looks right or feels right without really digging in and understanding how it works and its implications. He worries AI can kind of drift off-road if you don't guide it carefully.
That connects right back to that technical debt idea we talked about.
It does, but even with those cautions, it sounds like AI is still a huge help for him.
Oh, definitely. He acknowledges that these large language models, LLMs, save him a lot of time. He gave examples like tasks that used to take him 30 minutes might now take 30 seconds with AI help.
Wow. Now, he estimates he still spends most of his time actually writing the code himself, but that combination, the AI plus his assistive tech, lets him keep doing what he loves productively despite the physical challenges. It's a fantastic example of AI as an equalizer.
Yeah, that's incredibly inspiring. The takeaway being AI can bridge gaps, but you still need the human driver.
Precisely. Human oversight is non-negotiable.
Okay, what about the second story, this rapid sauce creation with Replit Agent?
This one's fascinating. It's an anonymous account, but this developer apparently built a complete working sauce inventory tracker using Replit Agent in just 10 minutes.
10 minutes? That sounds almost unbelievable.
Right. They use natural language prompts, plain English, with Python and the Flask framework. They described needing user authentication, product management features, a real-time dashboard.
And the AI just built it. What kind of prompts did they use?
They started broad, like create a basic sauce inventory tracker with user auth and real-time updates. Then they got more specific for different parts. Set up user registration, log in, log out for the backend. Then describe the front-end elements needed, like forms, tables, using Bootstrap.
So basically describing the app feature by feature in English.
Pretty much, yeah. And the AI translated that into working code. The developer really highlighted how well Replit Agent understood the natural language.
Oh, okay.
They also mentioned the really low learning curve, how cost-effective it was, and critically, that they could still go in and easily tweak or customize the AI-generated code afterward.
Right, it's not a black box.
Exactly. They stressed that something that would normally take days, maybe even weeks, they get the core functionality up in under an hour. The big insight here is just how dramatically AI might lower the barrier for building software, potentially sparking way more innovation than entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that really could democratize things, empower people with ideas, but maybe not deep coding skills yet. Okay, let's shift scale now. the Microsoft .NET team using AI for a big modernization project.
Yeah, this is a great example of AI tackling a really complex enterprise-level job. The .NET team needed to modernize their build system, converting something like 300 different projects to the MS Build format. That's a huge undertaking.
Huge. How did they use AI for that?
They took a really smart hybrid approach. Not just one tool, but several strategies combined.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, they built a special extension for VS Code that acted as a Copilot chat participant. It gave Copilot context about MS Build, common patterns, tools needed. So Copilot could help developers convert individual files, kind of iterating with them until the build worked.
Okay, so interactive help for single files.
Right. Then, for converting lots of projects at once, batch conversions, they used a scripted approach with Azure OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini and o1 Mini models. These smaller, faster models were efficient for bulk processing.
Interesting, using different models for different tasks.
Exactly. They even used an LLM to figure out the conversion rules automatically by looking at old project files and some manually converted ones. And get this, it then generated documentation based on those rules to help onboard developers to the new system.
AI generating documentation from code analysis, that's clever.
Isn't it? And finally, they had a script that applied these AI-derived rules to projects, generated 3 possible converted versions, and automatically picked the first one that actually built successfully.
Wow, that's a very systematic process. What were the results like?
Pretty impressive. They found AI did really well on the smaller, simpler files. Someone's even finding fixes humans had missed.
Huh.
And that scripted batch conversion approach, it dramatically sped up their progress, letting them hit their modernization target way ahead of schedule. They were strategic AI for the simpler stuff, humans for the really complex projects that needed deep understanding.
Makes sense. Focus AI where it excels.
And the cost was remarkable.
Nice.
They said the experience and the actual conversions using Azure OpenAI cost less than $1 in total.
Less than $1 for all that.
Yeah. So the key insight is really how effective that hybrid human-AI approach can be for huge modernization efforts.
Yeah.
AI handles the volume, humans handle the complexity, and it can be incredibly cost-effective.
That's amazing. Really shows the potential for accelerating massive, daunting tasks. Okay, last story. Asher Scott at IBM, using Watsonx Code Assistant for upskilling.
Asher's story really highlights AI's role in learning and just making sense of complex code, especially if you're newer to a team or project.
Okay.
His team at IBM had this challenge. Over 50 code repositories, maybe 750 JavaScript files, mostly undocumented, a nightmare to navigate.
Yikes. Yeah.
So they used IBM's Watson's Code Assistant specifically to generate quick, one-sentence summaries for the really big files, like over 1,000 lines of code.
Just a quick summary to get the gist.
Exactly. And Asher said he was genuinely surprised how effective it was. It helped him get up to speed much faster, especially with understanding more advanced syntax he wasn't familiar with. He felt it helped him take his skills to the next level.
So it wasn't just summarizing, it was actually helping him learn the code.
That's what he reported, yeah. And the efficiency gains were huge. The AI could summarize a file in about 12 seconds. They calculated it was over a 90% time saving compared to a human trying to do the same. Weeks of work potentially done in minutes, he said.
Wow. 12 seconds.
And there was another cool bit. A teammate who wasn't even a programmer was able to use the AI's chat interface to generate a script that could identify which files were missing documentation in the first place.
A non-programmer generating a useful script with AI chat. Okay.
Right. And IBM's internal docs apparently also emphasize how this kind of generative AI helps people learn new languages or frameworks faster, understand complex code, basically acting like that on-demand mentor for junior developers.
So the takeaway there is AI as a learning accelerator.
Definitely. An accelerator and an on-demand mentor. It lowers the cognitive load of figuring out confusing code and really boosts confidence, especially when you're facing something new and complex.
Looking across all these stories, Josh, overcoming limitations, the super fast SaaS build, Microsoft's big modernization, Asher's learning journey, what's the common thread you see?
I think the big theme is AI as this powerful equalizer and enabler.
Equalizer. How so?
Well, for Josh, it helps bridge a physical disability. For the anonymous Replit user, it dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for entrepreneurship. For Microsoft, it kind of equalized the massive effort needed for that modernization, making it feasible. And for Asher, it helps bridge the experience gap, getting him productive faster.
Okay, I see. It levels the playing field in different ways.
Exactly. It's not just about speed. It's about enabling more people or enabling people to do things they couldn't before. And this is crucial, these are all symbiotic achievements. They absolutely rely on human ingenuity to direct the AI, to evaluate the results, to integrate it effectively.
That's a really important point. AI isn't magic. It needs that skilled human partner.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard the exciting stuff, the potential, but there got to be concerns, challenges, right? We need to talk about those too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While the potential is huge, we absolutely have to look at the potential downsides and challenges. It's not all roses.
Right. What are some of the main worries?
Well, one big one is the risk of skill atrophy, over-reliance.
Skill atrophy, like developers forgetting how to do things themselves.
Kind of. There's a concern, especially for people just learning, that if you lean too heavily on AI to generate code, you might not develop those fundamental programming skills, that deep understanding of why things work. Josh Comeau's vibe coding idea fits here, just using code because the AI gave it to you without really getting it.
Yeah, I can see that. If the AI always provides the answer, you might not build those problem-solving muscles. What about the code itself, its quality, reliability?
That's another major point. AI can generate code that looks perfectly fine, very plausible, but it might lack a real understanding of the overall project context, the specific edge cases, the architectural intent.
So plausible but potentially buggy or just wrong.
Exactly. Plausible but flawed. And then there's that AI-induced technical debt we mentioned. The AI might just keep adding new code instead of doing necessary refactoring, making the whole thing harder to maintain later.
Right.
There was actually a harness survey mentioned in the sources, and it found something like 67% of developers felt they were spending more time debugging AI-generated code compared to code they wrote themselves.
Wow, 67% spending more time debugging. That kind of counteracts the speed benefit, doesn't it?
It certainly can, yeah. The initial generation might be fast, but if you spend longer fixing it,
Yeah.
what about security? That's always huge in software. Huge. And unfortunately, AI can introduce security vulnerabilities too. Research, like some from Stanford, has shown AI tools generating code with known flaws, things like SQL injection risks, insecure cryptography, potential data exposure issues.
Oof, that's serious.
It is. And there's also this theoretical risk, though maybe less immediate, of the AI's training data being deliberately poisoned to make it suggest insecure code. In that same harness survey, it also found 68% of developers reported spending more time resolving security vulnerabilities that they believed were introduced by AI.
Okay, so significant time spent on both debugging and security fixes for AI code. That paints a more complex picture than just AI makes coding faster.
It really does. It underscores the need for rigorous review and testing.
What about the developers themselves? How are people feeling about all this? Is everyone jumping on board?
Sentiment seems mixed.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe evolving. There's definitely excitement. People see the potential. But the 2024 Stack Overflow survey actually showed a slight dip in developers having a favorable view of AI tools compared to the year before.
Oh, really? A dip? Why the skepticism?
It could be a few things. Concerns about that code quality we just talked about. Questions around intellectual property, like who owns the code the AI generates. Privacy concerns about feeding company code into these models.
Yeah, the IP and privacy questions are big ones.
Huge. Plus, just general resistance to change sometimes, cultural inertia.
Yeah.
Some developers might feel uncomfortable with AI kind of interfering with their established ways of working or worry it encourages bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's rolled out makes a difference too. Those top-down mandates, thou shalt use AI, without proper support or letting developers choose tools, that can really backfire and create frustration.
Mm-hmm.
There was even an anecdote about a developer getting rejected for a job for not being AI first enough, which seems misguided.
Yikes. Yeah, forcing it sounds like a bad strategy. Okay, so given all these potential benefits and these very real challenges, how can developers and teams navigate this? What are the strategies for making AI work effectively, responsibly?
It really comes down to a few key things. First and foremost, cultivate critical thinking. Maintain human oversight. You cannot just blindly trust the AI.
Don't advocate responsibility.
Exactly. You're still accountable for the code. One developer suggested a good practice. Always try to write the code yourself first, figure out the logic, then maybe consult AI for improvements or alternatives. You need to understand the AI's code well enough to fix it when it inevitably breaks.
That makes sense. Wrestle with the problem yourself first. What else?
Leverage AI for explanation. Use it as a learning tool. Ask it to break down complex code, explain concepts you're unsure about. Turn it into that learning partner we discussed.
Okay, use it to understand, not just to generate.
Right. And apply it strategically, not just everywhere for everything. Focus it on tedious, repetitive tasks first. Start small, with well-defined problems, build confidence and experience. Don't try to boil the ocean on day one.
Start small, learn fast.
Yeah. And embrace continuous learning. These tools are changing so fast. You need to keep learning about the tools themselves, how to prompt effectively, the ethical side of things. It's ongoing.
The learning never stops.
Never. And prioritize security, like really rigorously. You need robust testing, maybe AI-aware code scanning tools, thorough reviews.
Can't cut corners on security.
Absolutely not. And finally, foster a supportive environment. Teams and organizations need to invest in AI literacy, create spaces to share learnings and best practices, and crucially, empower developers to choose and experiment with tools rather than just dictating from on high.
That supportive culture seems key to avoiding the pushback we talked about.
Definitely. It's that contrast between empowering people versus rigid mandates.
It feels like we're moving past the initial hype cycle, maybe, towards a more pragmatic, trust but verify stance.
I think that's exactly right. The initial, maybe unbridled enthusiasm is being tempered by practical experience.
Yeah.
And that means a growing need for better verification, validation, quality assurance processes that are specifically designed for these AI-assisted workflows.
Could that mean new roles or QA needing to evolve?
Very possibly. Maybe specialized AI code auditors or QA focusing more on validating the intent and security of AI contributions, not just functional testing. Practices will need to adapt.
So if AI is doing more of the line-by-line coding and developers need to focus on oversight strategy, what does the future role of the developer actually look like? How's the job itself changing?
It's definitely shifting. Less focused purely on cranking out lines of code, more towards higher level, more strategic responsibilities.
Like what?
Well, things like elevated architectural thinking, designing robust, scalable systems that becomes even more critical. Creative problem solving for the really novel challenges, the stuff AI can't easily handle, that 20% of code that requires unique solutions.
The hard parts.
The hard, interesting parts. Also becoming that strategic AI partner, an orchestrator, knowing how to effectively guide AI, integrate its output, manage the collaboration.
Good conductor metaphor again.
Exactly. Proficiency in prompting and interacting with AI becomes a core skill, obviously. And maybe even more importantly, a deeper understanding of the business logic the user needs. You need to point the AI at the right problems.
So understanding the why becomes even more important than just the how.
Precisely. Someone quoted in the sources said, AI is not just a tool. It's reshaping how we approach software design and development. The vision is AI becoming more like a peer, an assistant capable of handling whole tasks.
A peer. Wow.
Which sounds maybe scary, but the idea is augmentation. It frees up developers to tackle much more complex problems, to innovate faster, to deliver more ambitious things.
If it's managed well.
If it's managed well. And that comes back to that organizational culture. An empowering approach versus a top-down mandate will likely lead to very different outcomes in how successfully teams adapt and leverage these tools.
This has been, wow, a really comprehensive look at where things stand and where they seem to be heading with AI and development. It feels clear, like you said, that AI is this incredibly powerful force, but it's empowering developers, not replacing them. Those stories really drove that home.
Exactly. The human developer, still absolutely essential. That critical thinking, the architectural vision, genuine innovation, ethical judgment. AI doesn't have that.
Yeah.
One source put it perfectly. The human touch is irreplaceable. The real magic happens in that partnership, that symbiosis between the human and the AI.
So for all the developers listening, feeling maybe a bit anxious or just curious, it sounds like the path forward isn't about trying to outcode the AI. It's about adaptability, right? Focusing on the value only a human can bring and getting really good at using AI to amplify that.
That's it, precisely. Adaptability and leveraging the tools strategically.
So what's your final call to action then for our listener, for you tuning in?
I'd say first take a look at your own work. Where could AI genuinely help you? Identify those opportunities.
Right.
Second, don't be afraid to experiment. Pick a relevant tool, maybe starting with something from that table we discussed, and try it out thoughtfully on a small task. See how it feels.
Dip your toes in.
Yeah. Third, actively work on those partnership skills. Practice prompting, get better at evaluating the output, really understand the tool's limits.
Become a better collaborator.
And finally, talk to your peers. Share what you're learning, good and bad. Collaborate on figuring out the best ways to work with these tools. We're all learning together here. Remember that quote, the developers who thrive won't be the ones who try to outrun AI. They'll be the ones who know how to work with it. That's
a really strong, actionable message. And maybe a final thought to leave people with. It really seems like the developer of tomorrow isn't just a coder anymore. They're an AI-augmented innovator.
I truly believe that. And, this whole revolution forces us to rethink how we even measure developer productivity and value.
Right, it can't just be lines of code anymore.
Definitely not. We need to shift focus to things like, how well is the problem defined? How sound is the architecture? What's the actual impact of the software? And, critically, how strategically is the developer leveraging AI to achieve those outcomes? The future developer, they're a strategic thinker, a problem solver, and a master of these incredibly powerful new tools.